The holiest city in the world is burning. It is the year 614, and Persian soldiers are dragging the true cross, the actual wood Christ was crucified on, out of Jerusalem and back to their capital. This isn't just a defeat, it is the psychological end of the Roman Empire. But to understand how the Romans fell this low, we have to go back 12 years to a single bloody murder that set the world on fire. You might think you know the history of the fall of Rome, but the war that actually destroyed the ancient world isn't the one they taught you in school. For centuries, two superpowers dominated the globe, the Romans in the west and the Persians in the east. They were the Cold War giants of antiquity. They fought, they traded, and they maintained a delicate balance of power. But in the year 602, that balance was shattered. The Roman Emperor Maurice was a brilliant leader, but he was broke. When he ordered his exhausted army to stay north of the Danube for winter to save money, they mutinied. A low-ranking centurion named Phocas marched on Constantinople, executed Maurice, and seized the throne. This was the mistake that unraveled history. You see, the Persian king, Khosrow II, was actually a friend of the murdered emperor. Khosrow used this assassination as the perfect excuse to launch the invasion he had always dreamed of. He wasn't just coming for territory, he was coming to avenge his friend and destroy Rome entirely. The speed of the Roman collapse was terrifying. The Persian armies were unstoppable. They swept through Mesopotamia, captured the impregnable fortresses of the border, and poured into Syria. The usurper Phocas was incompetent, terrified, and eventually killed by his own people, paving the way for a young general named Heraclius to take the throne. But even Heraclius, one of the greatest tacticians in history, couldn't stop the bleeding. The Persians took Antioch, then Damascus. Then, as we saw, they took Jerusalem and the true cross. Finally, they took Egypt, the breadbasket of the empire. The Roman grain supply was cut off, the economy collapsed, the end was here. By 620, the Persian Empire had restored the borders of the ancient Achaemenids. Rome was reduced to essentially just the city of Constantinople and a few scraps of land. Khosrow sent a letter to Heraclius, calling him a stupid and useless servant, and demanding he abandon his religion. But wait until you hear what happened next. This is the moment where Heraclius does the impossible. Instead of staying behind the massive walls of Constantinople to die slowly, Heraclius did something no emperor had ever done. He borrowed every scrap of silver and gold from the church, melted it down to pay for a new army, and left his capital. He didn't march to fight the Persians in the Holy Land, he sailed north, landing in the Caucasus Mountains, effectively invading the enemy's backyard while they were still occupying his front yard. It was a suicide mission. For 6 years, Heraclius campaigned deep in enemy territory. He turned the war into a holy crusade, rallying his troops with images of Christ. While the Persians and their barbarian allies besieged Constantinople in 626, Heraclius ignored it. He trusted the city's walls and navy to hold, while he burned Persian cities to the ground. The gamble paid off. The siege of Constantinople failed. Heraclius smashed the main Persian army at the Battle of Nineveh in 627. The Persian king Khosrow was overthrown by his own son, who immediately begged for peace. The war ended. The borders returned to exactly where they were 26 years prior. The true cross was returned to Jerusalem in triumph. Heraclius was hailed as the new David, the savior of Christianity, the greatest Roman since Julius Caesar. But this isn't a happy ending. This is a tragedy. You see, this war lasted 26 years. It exhausted the treasury, decimated the populations and shattered the political stability of both empires. The Romans and Persians had beaten each other into a coma, and while they were celebrating their empty victory, a new power had risen unnoticed in the deserts of Arabia. Just a few years after Heraclius's triumph, the armies of Islam marched out of the desert. The Persians, shattered by the war, collapsed completely. The Romans, bankrupt and exhausted, lost Syria, Egypt, and Palestine again, this time forever. The War of 602 to 628 didn't just kill soldiers, it killed antiquity. It wiped the slate clean and set the stage for the Middle Ages. So, knowing how quickly the empire fell after his victory, I have to ask you, do you consider Heraclius a hero for delaying the inevitable, or was his refusal to surrender actually the reason the Eastern Empire lost the Middle East forever? Let me know your verdict in the comments below.